Dawn of the Dead gave birth to the great Italian zombie boom of the late 70s and early 80s. But there was a slow period between Night and Dawn, when the Spanish took great influence from Night of the Living Dead, and what developed was a happy marriage between Romero's flesh-eating ghouls and EC's undead who returned from the grave to seek vengeance. And that became the Blind Dead series. So for today's unboxing and review, we are going to be having a look inside of Synapse's new Standard Edition Blu-ray release of Tombs of the Blind Dead. First up, we've got the original poster artwork on the front. Quick look at the back for you. And then on the inside, we have got the US theatrical version on the right, a product catalog on the left, and then behind that, we have the original Spanish version along with the hybrid cut. Also, no reversible artwork in there. So, now let's go out into my parlor, pop in the disc, and go over the bonus features. Let's slide over to the bonus features. First up, we've got 3 audio commentaries. Then we've got Revenge from Planet Ape, the alternate US opening sequence that makes absolutely no sense, where they tried to tie it into the Planet of the Apes franchise just to make more money off of it. Next up, Awakening of Spanish Horror Cinema, a 14 long minute featurette that I believe is German, a music video, Marauders from the Mediterranean. We've got an 89-minute feature-length documentary on Spanish zombie films, a still gallery, and the original theatrical trailer. So now let's go back into my library and talk about the restoration. Tombs was shot on 35mm, and it is presented here in its original aspect ratio of 1.66 to 1. And Synapse gave the film a new 2K restoration last year using the original camera negative. There are a few different versions of the film you can also watch. You can watch the original Spanish version, or you can watch the new English-Spanish hybrid cut that presents as much of the film in English as possible, and then takes all of those deleted scenes from the English version that are still present in the Spanish version and inserts them into the English version. Then you have the choice just to watch the US theatrical version, which removes about 20 minutes from the Spanish version. And for a 2K restoration presented on a Blu-ray, I was more than happy with how this looked. I thought it was actually a 4K restoration when I was watching it. Even though it was shot on 35, grain levels are surprisingly high, not distracting though. They work very well with the mood of the film, because if you've ever seen the Blind Dead movies, you'll know that they're very, very light on plot for the most part, and rely a lot on mood and atmosphere and dread. And some of my favorite scenes from the first movie are when the dead rise on horseback and are shot in slow motion, so it gives almost this dreary, dreamy, ethereal quality that you don't see in zombie movies. But even though grain levels are high enough to make me think this might have been shot even on 16mm, the level of detail is also astounding, especially in the ruins, because contrast levels are high with how it was lit, and that really brings out texture and shadows and detail, especially within the stones. And the zombies as well, because they are covered in rotting, cobweb-covered shrouds, so there is a lot of texture to be seen in this movie. Black levels are also surprisingly solid and deep. Skin texture looks normal, which you know can be harder to nail with older movies, but I am surprisingly happy with how this release looks, considering it did not get a 4K restoration. And lastly, this was released in a limited edition Steelbook. I forget if it was early this year or last year, but there aren't many differences. Obviously, you don't get the Steelbook in this release, you don't get a CD of the soundtrack, and you do not get an 8-page booklet that was included with that release. But otherwise, none of the bonus features have been excised. And that's going to wrap things up. Hope you thought it was informative. If you have any questions about this release, don't hesitate to ask them down in the comments below, because I'll do my best to try and answer them for you. And as always, I will wish you pleasant days and spooky nights. Until next time.